Weird science
is the revolution.
Sinister Sons #5, written by Peter J. Tomasi with art by Vasco Georgiev, Tamra von Villon. Were those words? Tamra von Villon. And Rob Lee. So yeah, this is a weird issue to the point where it's weird for a comic, but not weird in the fact that it maintains its status quo of not doing anything in the series, just like the rest of the series has done so far. So we're 5 issues deep of a 6-issue mini, and there's nothing happening in this. Even the idea where it seems our main concern, the main thing that we have to do is reunite Sin Sun with Sinestro so we can say, hey, you're my daddy, or I hope you're my daddy. And that's not much of a book in my mind, especially because nobody cares about Sin Sun or really knows anything about him except for some Green Lantern backups.
And I love the idea. Now, if you ended up having, the who's the father type deal, are you the father? You end up having Maury Povich come up and he's going to say it. When it does happen, or if it's not, and then you have Sinestro, he's doing the moonwalk. I love those guys when they find out they're not. But then what they always do is Maury has to pull them back and say, listen, that's still a woman you used to love. And then they have that scene in the hallway because the woman always runs off.
Oh, she took off, yeah.
She takes off in the hallway. But in the meantime,
it's a goddamn labyrinth back there,
oh, my God, it is. It's like you have to fight the Minotaur to get out of Maury Povich's studio. You end up in this, though, where at the end, if it's like, oh, and I think now I'm really going with ambiguous, but if they're like, okay, yes, he is the son. No, he isn't. Who cares? I mean, you're going to end up, even if he is, you're going to say, oh, okay, maybe we'll see him later. If he's not, you're like, sayonara, sucker. That's about it. But who cares? And what I
But it's
have
all about
to
the
say
friends we made along the way, because even though the Sin Sun may not be Sinestro's son, he has met his best friend in Lorzad.
Is it his best friend? Because they still don't feel like that. This feels like camp friends that hate each other. And then at the end, the one who would be Lorzad, or not Lorzad, Sin Sun, saying, oh man, are you going to keep in touch? He's like, with you, bitch? I'm going home where I have real friends and leave. But even then,
that's the thing is, maybe even the idea should be going back to his place because at least he knows who his fucking parents are to find some bad shit happen. But you don't have time for that.
Well, and going back to maybe the Kneel Before Zod that we hear is ending earlier than it should anyway. But even in that, Zod said, I have no son. But when you're doing that, something that has been said a lot here. Yeah, that kind of gets, I understand Laura's upset, but he says he even understood that. So it's weird. But in all of this, we have a book that we thought was doomed from the beginning. It's giving Tomasi that idea of, hey, we keep giving you these Super Sons books, but that's kind of not working out anymore. That's kind of run its course while people still like it, whatever. But we'll do this. It always felt bad. It always felt like it wasn't going to work because we don't have connections to these characters like we did with Damien and John. But when you do this, he said, oh, it's an ongoing, whatever. It's ending at 6. Okay, that's a shame, I guess, for Tomasi and any fans of this book. But at this point, in issue 5, usually when we find out something's ending, it's like, oh, issue 9, it's going to end at 12. Oh, they're going to have to wrap it up. This book did nothing for any of these. And now that it feels like maybe he's rushing, is he rushing to an end? Because nothing has happened. And that's the weird part about it is I can't even say that it's a shame he needed more issues because he's done nothing. And they're just they're in a whale for a bunch of things. You have Major
most of the series.
Then we end up getting to New Korugar. And the only thing that was good is them thinking of the different things, hey, and of the mind. Like, hey, get back here. I don't know why Sinestro's chasing a kid in a bathing suit. That might
because they're playing tag and their father and son. What is wrong with you?
Is that what they call it on the rooftops?
Fathers play with their kids. I know you wouldn't know about this, but they do.
I don't even know.
What the hell is even that?
So you have that of the mind and really goes this. He's watching, Eric. And that's nice. That's nice. Hey, this is what I do with my daddy. I'd have fun.
You talk about it.
Well, but then you hit the actual Sinestro, and you mentioned it earlier in the podcast, like, this is a happy-go-lucky Sinestro as a Red Lantern, like the rage at him just beating the shit out of everybody.
Him having the rage on Earth, it was complete bullshit, the idea that he's able to change his Sinestro Core ring into a Red Lantern ring to take off and be fully charged because of the rage he feels at his situation. Makes his way back to New Korugar, and it seems like he's happy as a goddamn clam here. He wants to know what this giant whale's doing, orbiting his planet. Finds these kids there. Hey, this one, he's from Korugar originally. He's going to come back with his freaking pale friend over here, and they're going to be part of my workforce because shit done got fucked up on New Korugar once that battery exploded. I'm going to need all the help I can get. But at no time in this did I see the rage filling this man's freaking soul. Nothing about it.
That, I barely see Sinestro anyway. Some of the lines that he has, I get the idea. He's like, okay, what's up with you? Major Tom kind of gets him on. He throws him against the wall of the whale. But then it's like, hey, what's your deal? He's like, you're, Thel Sinestro, the leader of my people. I mean, your people. They are our people. Now and forever. I'm waiting for the wink. Now and forever, kid. Wink, wink. And like the little ding as he does it. And even then, just this talk of like, your name, boy. And he's just too nice anyway. But then some of the lines that he has just don't really feel like they're Sinestro stuff.
Even the darkest line that he has here when he's flying the Lord Zod and Sinister to their accommodations so they can shower up before getting right onto the freaking workforce is like, who did this? I don't know yet, but when I find them, I'll make them bleed profusely. And I'm like, no, that's just a regular Sinestro line. That's not a Rage Liner line.
Yeah,
that's just Sinestro.
And that's what I'm saying. And even then, and in this though, he's still like just hanging out. The battery got blown up, Eric, right?
It blew up, Jim.
And he's taking what seems like a way too long attempt to talk to two little kids and Spaceman Joe in a whale. Like, he's there. Like, I mean, he would fly and say, what the hell is this? What the hell is even that? He would say,
I expect the Rage to tear that whale apart.
Yeah, and he'd just destroy everything and go, but he's so concerned. He's like, and the idea that he's making accommodations, he's setting up all these things because these two kids, they can help on the workforce. And doesn't know Spaceman Joe, though. He gets to stay in the whale.
I like living in my whale, boys. You go right along.
And even then, it was where you have Spaceman Joe, like, hey, what's your real name? And he's like, hey, I don't know. I can't really tell you. Then says
Thomas
that
J. Newton, Space Ranger.
These kids are wise asses. And then you have, do you have a story? Here's one of them. This is a raged out Sinestro. Do you have a story? If I told you, I'd have to kill you. You are a funny guy. I'm like, no. He should be killing him. But you're kind of naming him as, this should just be Spaceman Joe. Should be dead Spaceman Joe. And Sinestro thinks it's a hoot. And you end up where
Spaceman Joe, Jim, Spaceman.
Major Tom goes, oh, glad I could liven things up. Like, what is this? It's so weird the way this is playing out. But then Sinestro just says, I'll be waiting for you. Make a decision. He goes off, and then they're like, hey, Spaceman Joe, let's go. And he's like, no. Even a decision doesn't feel right. It should be like, you're here, you're helping, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with you afterwards. But Spaceman Joe's like,
decision or no decision,
at this
the
point,
idea is this is where you want him to go.
Dead. I thought the whale crash landed dead. To be quite honest. And he's like, I'm going to sit in the deal, and I think that the whale knows where to go. I'm like, you even get this whole deal of, hey, I get it. This chain isn't just a chain to keep you safe. It's a chain because it's metaphorically, you don't want to go outside. You're an agoraphobic here in the whale. And he's like, man, where'd you get that psych degree? What is happening here? What happened? But yeah, and they go, he goes off. Says the whale will know where to go. Boom, he's out. Maybe to find Crazy Cabby. Crazy Cabby, Space Cabby. You end up then, and then there's Sinestro's going to fly them off to, their deal. Hey, welcome to New Korugar, all this stuff. And Lorzada, he's crossed his arms. He's pissed. It's just, there's nothing to this.
But he is getting his powers back because they're under a yellow sun again, finally.
Yeah. And he even says, Sinestro says, I want you to get that stank off the hango. You guys take showers. I'm going to drop you off when you're done. Go help out. It's really right. I'm telling you.
And the biggest change to our story, because Sin's son hasn't let the cat out of the bag yet that he thinks is Sinestro's father, but he's working up to it. And in order to do that, he makes sure he cuts his long hair nice and trim, just like Dear Daddy-O does.
Yeah. So, and in that, Laura Zod kept like, why didn't you tell him? Why didn't you say anything? It wasn't the right time. I do like at one point where I swear Sinestro's, his mustache gets thicker and thicker and then becomes, pretty much like he's going to go and tie somebody to a train track a little more than what it usually is. It's very, very much handlebar at one point almost. But you end up where they go and, like you said, they're washing you.
I can only hope, though, that in the next issue, the rage comes full bore, because the idea is, look, I don't know that he's my dad. I want him to be my dad. I think he's my dad. I'm just going to have to get a blood sample from him. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, if he doesn't give it to me, I'm going to take it with the gun that, Spaceman Joe Tommy Tomorrow gave him.
Yeah,
and so it's like, I just imagine when he goes to take the blood of Sinestro, maybe the rage will finally come out and we can actually see some Red Lantern shit.
I thought maybe he'll shoot Sinestro and he'll revert to Kirk Langstrom. And then they'll heal the pats. That's what I'm waiting for. But really, at this ending, and I think Tomasi's a good writer. I liked the character work he did on the Super Son stuff. It was really good. Some of the stories were a little wonky. People argue with me that. But when you have this, like, this is a guy who just wants to end the series. He's exclusive to Ghost Machine. This feels like, all right, let's just end this. And it doesn't feel inspired. It doesn't feel like anything. You're getting the same issue each issue, just maybe a slight change here
out
at
of a
corridor.
now.
Yeah, I mean, we were in it, but it's the same where you end up having one of the big moments where you have Sin Sun and he, cuts his hair and they get ready and he's like, oh, and Lord Zod realizes, oh, I get it. But I guess you can say that if it went further, maybe you could have had better character work because he never really did deal with, that time where they're sitting there and Sin Sun says, why do you care about me? You're lucky you have a dad, and they can kind of get more into that. They kind of just yell it at points, but not really into it. What is a dad and a father and things like that.
With, like a whale belly and pirate sites.
Yeah, so it's a shame, but they end up where one of the lines that I do like him, Lord Zod being very intuitive, says, oh, I get it now. You're afraid. I mean, really, the play here in my mind is when you have this sort of thing and you really are hoping, and I think that once he got the new Korrigar, I think that even Sin Sun realizes how ridiculous it seems of this huge planet, and I somehow think that, Sinestro is my dad, but he doesn't want to tell Sinestro or ask because that leads to him finding out no. So what he wants to do...
He's got that red lantern symbol on. You don't want to make him angry.
Well, I don't even think he even knows what that is. So no, I think that the whole thing is like, again, if you're hoping to everything is this one thing, you're then afraid to actually find out because you do have that idea, I am being read. So what he does, he cuts his hair.
It's nice to fantasize about it. He's never been this close to finding out before, but now it's a scary situation where it might not be.
And this could end like this. What do you do when you find out no? So the fantasy's better.
Your entire identity is gone.
But in the meantime, I like where Lord Zod realizes what he's doing here. Instead of telling Sinestro, he's desperately hoping he's his father. And if he cuts his hair, just like Sinestro's and kind of does this, Sinestro will then say, oh my God, you might be my son. And then maybe fall in love with him before, that sort of thing. Lord Zod says it, and he's like, yeah, kind of. And that's pretty cool, though. We do have one page where it's just Lord Zod scrubbing.
Yeah.
And then you have another page of cutting hair. He's doing a good. He's got the snips. He's got the razor. Right?
You have an entire page of Sin Sun showering, another page of Sin Sun cutting hair, and then another page of Lord Zod bathing.
Yeah.
That's
scrubbing his feet.
Oh, and then the next page is Lord Zod putting his clothes back on.
And looking at his armpits to see if there's hair or sniffing. He does sniff, so he wants to see if he smells. He got he needs some right guard. And then he puts on his outfit. And even then, when he's doing this, you're supposed to be getting the character work of when he puts on the uniform. Like the sniffing is, he's getting older. Our boy's done grown up. Lord Zod. But then he also puts in likes the crest, and he's proud of his family. And it's going to end up, because of this ending at 6, unfortunately, you're not really getting Sinister Sons. You're getting Sin Sun and Buddy because it's all leading and only about Sin Sun. And the idea, and I think that when Lord Zod looks at it, the play that you're supposed to get of the feels is, I still have a family, and he doesn't. If he finds out that this is, and I think that the real feels moment, and I probably will like it if it happens, Lore realizing something's going to go wrong with this meeting or whatever, and him actually stepping in, almost acting like an asshole so that it doesn't go wrong, so that the fantasy can continue.
Well, I just imagine, though, because he's going to go for that blood sample, so that's just going to rage all out, and you're going to need a Lord Zod with Kryptonian powers to freaking help him there and protect him.
And where I think it's the idea is then Lord Zod will have some weird way where he'll be able to say, you know what? I saw that blood with my X-ray vision, and it did have little Sinestros in there. I think you are his son, but...
So he's got the little Sinestros in there.
I want him to have some ways. Like, I saw the midichlorians. They were in there. And that he can convince, in a way, to say to Sin Sun, listen, you are Sinestro's son, but you better back off for now. But don't worry about it right now. He'll be there, like, just to try to make it right, because he does seem, when he does look at the crest of the House of Zod, and he's like, yes, perfect. That really gets you in the idea that he does have, and will have somebody to go back to, even though he claimed he doesn't have a son.
That Mama's
and
dead.
When he goes back and his mom's dead. So there's troubles there, which would have been,
hopefully
again,
she's still a Durlin in disguise that died, and they have the real Ursa. I know, but that's what I want.
That's my new parody. It's Sterling in disguise to Judy in disguise. That'd be pretty good. Yeah. So at the end, though, that would have been a cool play to maybe find out whatever this is, and then the next deal would have been, well, now we did your thing. We're going to go back.
Sterling in disguise.
What's going to happen? It's Sterling in disguise. When you end up where Lord Zod's like, okay, I have the coordinates to my home planet. Like, oh, crap, like it's gone. It blipped out, so you'd be really worried. So. Yeah, and they're going to go and...
Well, that's the thing, is I can imagine it's one of those things where they're going to be on New Korrigar. It's going to be that big United Federation of Planets bulletin where, New Kandor's missing. But what do you do with that?
Actually, what you do with that is, oh no, I better go find out what that is in the final issue that's next issue, and he leaves. That's the perfect deal.
Sinister Sons.
What does Sin Sun end as? Is like, well, I'm not sure if Sinestro's my dad, but I'm on my home planet. This is where I'm from. Yeah. I think I'll stay.
That's the thing, is I think you had that little monologue, and then you had the final page where he's breaking rocks with a pickaxe because he's on the workforce.
Damn right? That's what happens when you're Sinestro's son. No, actually...
It's a living.
Actually, immediately, some asshole grabs him to go steal shit again. It just repeats. It just ends up being the same deal, but he has that Kirk Langstrom gun. I think all of a sudden the bats are attacking Sinestro. Gun? Maybe what would it be? How weird would it be? In this book, it's that, because we don't really know what that, I guess that was the gun that he had before, but it looks different. I thought that gun looked more like a needle gun that he was going to end up. But maybe that ends up, he takes the blood. That actual blood taking cures Sinestro of the red rage, because the red blood, because who knows? How is he going to get rid of it? Well, it might happen. Who knows what happens in this thing? Well, there's that. I don't think he's old enough to drive a flying car. Look at him. He's pretty good there. But what would you give this?
I think the art looks great throughout. It's the only thing about this issue that I really enjoy. 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll be a little more positive. 3.1. Now, right. I'm going to give it there's nothing going on here, but it didn't anger me the way other books did. But it does look good. I do like the cartoony style. Sinestro's way off, though. Yeah, I'll go 3.5. I was going to go 4, but I don't think it deserves that. It's not very good. I don't think anybody's reading it because of the fact of nobody had any connection to these characters, really, and that's what you got from Super Sons. You didn't quite get it here. At any point, it's weird. At any point, do you think Tomasi would have played the game that Sin Sun and Lord Zod would have hit a time-traveling deal and would have actually came head-to-head against these Super Sons? Because he did weird things. I think he might have at one point if it was a continuing.
The thing is, you'd want to see something like that, but, who knows?
Weird science
is the revolution.